Okay, well, in this puzzle, it looks pretty clear that white's last move was probably to sacrifice the exchange with rook takes a piece on f6, maybe a knight or a bishop. And the idea, of course, is that if black moves and he takes that rook, well, when you take back, it's not only a fork, but it's actually mate in one. So that's not a candidate move for black. Well, it is a candidate move, but it's a rejectable candidate move. I call those initial and final candidate moves. So g takes f6 is a candidate move, but it's not a final candidate move. Final candidate moves are the ones that pass the test, that are safe or at least sacrificially worth considering. So g takes f6, not a move. So what else could black play? Well, we can see white's got a little bit of a weak back rank here. The good news for white is he's got the queen and the rook both guarding f1, which means if black checks on the back rank, let's say rook to d1 check, then white says, good, I just sacked that rook, you can't take it anymore. I will come back, and here, black doesn't have anything. For instance, suppose black tries the tricky move queen to e1. Well, white would then say, all right, well, it's hard for me to guard f1. I could play king g1, but why don't I just mate you instead with your weak back rank and play queen here? So rook back down to d1 check is a candidate move, but it doesn't look like it's winning. White will just interpose, and black does not have time to do something. So what else could black do? Well, he could check with the queen on b1 or e1, but that's very similar. Queen check, rook hits the queen. If the rook comes down, we transpose into the other line with a mate. So that's not going to work. So what else could black do? Well, now we start looking at the more interesting stuff. Suppose black tries to deflect white somehow. Suppose he tries to play, queen to a8 or something. Well, that doesn't quite work, because after white takes, black can no longer mate, because even though the queen's deflected, the rook on d8 becomes pinned. So let's try deflecting him on another square. Let's try deflecting him with queen to b7, so that if white takes the queen, then black will come down and checkmate. The problem is that white is not forced to take the queen. If he was forced to take the queen, this would be great, but white's going to play his best move, not the move he's forced to play. And suppose white just plays queen f1 and says, well, I'm up a piece, my bishop is guarded, and if you take my rook, I'll mate you in one again with the same line as before. And we're not getting anywhere. Black can pin the queen, white takes, and now black can take the rook, but white's still got that extra bishop because he's going to save it on this move. So that doesn't seem to work. Okay, and we could say the same, queen to c4 is even worse, because when the queen takes and the rook checks, we can just put the rook in the way anyway. So deflecting the queen along that diagonal is not a good idea. All right, so we're down to more esoteric moves, but that's where we're getting into something. Suppose we play queen c6. Well, on the surface, that looks ridiculous. He can take with a rook or he can take with a queen. But if you stop here and say that's ridiculous, it's not a candidate move, then that's what we call a quiescence error. Because clearly, if he takes with the queen, that deflects the queen off the diagonal, and that does what we want. And after rook checks, it'll be made on the next move. So taking with the queen is no good. All right? And if he takes with the rook, that's exactly the same kind of deflection. Now there's not two pieces on f1. And rook d1 is going to lead to mate on the next move also. But now a move like queen f1 doesn't work anymore, because unlike queen b7, the queen is also attacking the rook. So now black can just play queen takes f6. Playing queen takes f6 is better than pawn takes, because when you're winning, you want to trade. So when you play queen takes f6, you're basically saying to white, trade queens, or else I'll win the bishop too, because if he tries to guard the bishop, then he's getting mated. So queen takes is better than pawn takes. Now pawn takes wins, but you should learn in these kind of positions to play queen takes. I have a lot of students when I first start working with them. They love to take with the lowest rated. They think there's some rule that says take with the lower rated piece, the pawn. But of course, there is no such rule. Now, if you have to win material, that's different. But here, either queen takes or pawn takes wins material. But queen takes is the move that says to white, trade or retreat. So that's the answer to the puzzle. Queen to c6 with deflection, double attack, back rank mate. And no matter how white twists and turns here, he's going to either get mated or he's going to lose the rook. So queen c6 is the answer.